Bitcoin has just seen a weekly breakdown of the 62.09 on the RSI. In today's video, we are going to be discussing historic data for this major yet very unknown level going back over 10 years, discussing the likelihood of a continuation lower, exactly what the buyers need to do to push the price up on the short term, and even the recent weekly close. Let's go ahead and jump into the content. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. In today's video, we are going over the recent weekly candle close, the short-term volatility, and exactly what the buyers need to do to step back in and push the price to new highs. We are also discussing the critical yet unknown breakdown of the 62.09 on the weekly RSI, going back as far as 10 years in the past, discussing the consequence of the loss of this level and what this may have on the future impact of Bitcoin's price action. By the end of today's video, you'll have a detailed and complex understanding of not only the macro probabilities, but the short-term charts as well. Before we get into it, smash the like button, hit the comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you're interested in, join us on Telegram. This is the first link down below. You'll get access to our free Telegram channel where we post trading ideas, we post charts, we post absolutely everything you need to know to stay in loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. Of course, you'll also get access to all of our videos and educational posts. If you are interested in getting our trade setups and our trades, you do need to join the VIP channel. You can find out more information by clicking the pinned comment of the free channel, by clicking my name to contact me, the first link to see a 50+ month trading track record, and the second link to show you a 10-minute video inside the VIP channel. You'll get access to trading setups with exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more, including access to all of our group chats with over 770 members. It is the place to be. Check it out, guys. Join up. We'll see you in there. Let's dive on in. So as we can see, the weekly candle has just closed again for Bitcoin. Now, there is good and there is bad. Let's talk about real briefly the good, and then we'll get into the rest of the analysis when we get up to it. The overall good thing about this weekly candle close was, number one, we did see a more or less a long wicked short body candle, not so much a doji candle, but it was a candle of indecision, showing again consolidation and indecision throughout the week. The good thing is we were able to close this weekly candle within the weekly range. The weekly range is simply the price points between these two black horizontal lines, our weekly highs and our weekly lows. While we remain within this range, the directional probabilities are more or less going to be equal or undecided, meaning we're not expecting immediate corrections on the higher time frame or immediate rallies toward the upside. We have to look more to the short-term price action to decipher where that price is likely going to move to. So that is a good thing. It gives us more time, and it really builds up again that liquidity in this consolidation range, which does one major thing, which is when we finally break this range, the reactionary move we will see will be much more explosive. So when we get that definitive break, we will see a much more aggressive rally. We're going to be taking a look, of course, at this. We're also going to be taking a look at the weekly RSI breakdown. We have now had a break of the 62.09 level. And like we said, we are going back as far as 10 years, showing you every single breakdown, discussing why it's important and what this means for the macro. We're going to be discussing things like, is this the top? What this means for the short term, how far Bitcoin could correct, what could be reversal targets, etc., all that kind of stuff, and even will it fail? We'll also be taking a look at the total market cap briefly and the short-term price action. Let's move over to the data, guys. 24-hour liquidation and volume is up a significant amount, with volume up 35% at 142 billion coming out of the weekend, and liquidations up 117% at 226 million 143 million coming from longs, and of course 82 million coming from shorts. We had seen a large amount of short-term volatility within the last few hours moving into that weekly candle close. We can see just over here already a massive correction here on the short term of around 1 to 2% for Bitcoin, followed by a huge rally of 1 to 2% for Bitcoin as a consequence of the recent tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump in the USA. Again, these news events are going to have pretty profound short-term impacts on the market, and it's going to remain like that for a few months until the market begins to expect this news, and then that news will likely have less weight on the short-term volatility of the market. Let's move over to the DXY. We'll come back to Bitcoin. The DXY is looking really not much different to what we talked about last time. We are sitting between a high time frame horizontal support on the weekly and of course a prior high, which is going to be a weekly resistance. For directional continuations upwards, the prior high will need to break, and then we're going to be expecting moves to 112, 114. If we do lose this weekly low over here, we'll be expecting corrections to 104. Of course, this will be generally bullish for risk assets, and this will be generally bearish for risk assets. Until then, we are in a undecided zone of consolidation. This is going to be horizontal. This is going to be indecision. The market is waiting to see where it is likely going to move to based on upcoming data. I would most likely I strongly will inform you, we do have CPI data coming out in around 2 days. This will play a massive role in determining whether we get that breakdown or whether we get that continuation, as of course the leading information we get from inflation is going to be leading for what the Federal Reserve will likely do or even say in regards to the narrative they're developing around future interest rate reductions, which we know play an actual impact on the risk asset market as it completely alters the perception of perceived systematic risk in future periods. So we're watching very closely for that. Moving over to the S&P 500, the market has just opened around 2 hours ago. Not too much happening here. Again, it is establishing a nice uptrend on the short term. We have created these weekly highs that we deviated from, and we do have negative momentum. So we are still in an undecided territory. We do need to see that weekly RSI break to be confident that we are going to see continuations in the price. If we do not see that break and we end up seeing losses of these prior weekly lows, we could see corrections as far to the 50 EMA to see some sort of mean reversion to that 50. Of course, we want to see the RSI breakdown. If we do see that, we'll be looking for continuations upwards. Until then, remaining cautiously optimistic. That is it for the broader markets, guys. Let's jump into Bitcoin. We have so much to take a look at today, so we'll try to smash right through it. Before we get into it, if you like the content, if you want to support me making this content, and you want to support yourself, there's always benefits for yourself. Sign up to BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX. Links down below. 15 to 45% trading fee discount for life for you. And of course, that will go to support the channel and the content. Go ahead and check it out, guys. Sign up. We'll play an ad and we'll jump back in. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay, legends, let's go ahead and jump in. We are starting on the macro. We are starting on the weekly RSI, then jumping to the short term and discussing that crazy volatility we have seen today. So let's jump into it. Weekly, as we mentioned in the intro, as per the weekly candle, not that much has happened. The weekly candle itself was more or less a candle of indecision, slightly toward the bearish side, but more or less a candle of indecision with equal wicks toward the up and bottom. As per the closing price, we were able to close within the weekly range. This, of course, is a good thing. We know that closing within the weekly range is not going to really lead to any definitive directional moves. And we know that when we are able to break that weekly that weekly horizontal range we're in, we will likely see directional moves to our daily highs and lows. Of course, our daily highs and lows are marked out by these red lines. So moving over to the red lines over here, we can see our daily highs sitting around 108,000. And those lows sit around 88,000. These are really the key levels of resistance and support that we've been discussing over the last few weeks that will have profound and significant impacts on the direction of Bitcoin on the macro. While we remain above this area of support, this is going to be considered an area of support, meaning we're not expecting the price to drop below here while this level is holding. In fact, we are expecting moves towards the range high, and we'll discuss that in a second. However, if we do see the loss of this range low, this horizontal support at 88,000, we enter what we would call a low historical resistance range. And I want to get through this nice and quickly today because we discuss this a fair bit. Our low historical resistance range is simply measured on a horizontal scale, the prior trading volume at those particular horizontal price points. As we can see, during ranges of consolidation, such as here and here, we have, again, significantly more traded volume, which is not too surprising, as opposed to periods where we have these large expansionary moves or periods of price discovery, we have very little historical or no historical trading volume. This means these ranges are more susceptible to significant fluctuations in volatility depending on the direction of which the price action breaks into. Meaning if we break towards the range low through the support, we will likely see a burst of significant bearish volatility, which could result in the price action correcting a significant amount to 76,000 or even 70,000 as a low as a consequence of a loss of 88k. Now the loss of 88k resulting in that correction would have a profound impact on the macro expectations and directions of Bitcoin and potentially could mark the top. Whereas a directional breakthrough the range high would have an equal and opposite reaction, which is entering the low historical resistance range through a period of price discovery and of course through a local high. So that would result in an explosive and aggressive continuation toward the upside, which would be similar to what we saw back in 2023 on the daily chart. We had this horizontal consolidation, we had this low historical resistance range on the VRPB, which still does very much exist, and we saw that explosive yet very reactionary move toward the upside, which was able to sustain. So we can see already how the daily range is going to determine more or less where that price action is going to go in the macro, and the weekly range is going to determine whether or not we move to those daily highs and lows. So let's come back to the short term in a second and discuss the weekly RSI, because this is when the weekly RSI kind of comes into play. The weekly RSI at 62.09 has officially broken down. Now, what does this mean for Bitcoin? Where is Bitcoin likely to move to? We have to look at the data and what has happened historically to answer that. So let's go to our weekly chart. We've got the weekly chart up here. We've got data taken from around 2014. Before there, the price action was a little bit more sporadic. The market was a little young. We're not looking at that as so, but we're looking at the last 10 years of data to take a look at the implications this breakdown would mean. Now, we have done prior videos, such as videos when we saw breaks toward the upside. This is the indicator we've been using for a long time, particularly the 62.09 level, a level we have coined ourselves. We have looked at this level historically through significant breakout points, which historically led to significant rallies in Bitcoin. How we were able to predict most of these rallies were through the breakdown of the 62.09. Now looking at the bearish side, what we have seen is historically, nearly every time, I'm going to show you, this is time 1, 2, 3, 4. If we go back, we had 5, okay, we had 6, we have 7, 8, 9. That is 9 times out of the last, let's count them. So one failed breakdown. This is either the ones we are not circling are breakdowns which resulted in less than 10% or no correction. So either it didn't correct at least 10% or it just went straight up. We had 1, 2, we had 3, we had 4. So 4, there's 5. So out of the last, we're looking at around, what is that, 14 times? 9 of the times we saw at least a 10% correction, with many of those times resulting in 70%, 72%, 60%, 55%, 70% corrections. So we can see how this is not a level we should be ignoring. More than around 65 to 75% of the time, we'll see at least at least a 10% correction. And again, 10% is on the low end. If we look at all the corrections we've had, every single time we have seen these corrections being double digits, and only 2 times has the correction been less than 20%, and only 4 times has the correction been less than 50%. So significant macro, profound impact this breakdown could have on the price action. So if we take a look at this, where could Bitcoin go provided this plays out? Now we can see it doesn't play out every single time. Sometimes, if we go back, we had 5 instances where we either saw a less than 10% correction or no correction. If we broke those down even further, 3 times we actually did see a correction, but those were not 10%, around 5, 6, 7%, and only twice did we actually see the price action mark the exact bottom, and one of those instances were, of course, after what we saw to be around about a 20% correction on the week of which the RSI broke down. So if we're taking a look at the impact this may have on the price action, we're expecting a potential 10% correction, dragging that from the weekly open price. That could take us underneath, okay, the 88,000. That is why the weekly RSI here is important, because it tells us if we were to follow what we have seen historically, if the RSI breakdown was to have a similar, okay, impact, it could take us below 88,000. We know that the loss of 88,000 opens us up to a much more aggressive correction to fill the majority of this gap, which could be up to around a 30% correction for Bitcoin. So I'm not here saying we are 100% guaranteed to see this. I'm simply telling you what the data, what we have seen historically from these breakdown points. What we need to see for this correction to really develop toward the downside would still be a loss of that 88,000 little region. Now, as always, when we look at horizontal ranges, such as this range over here, there is always going to be possibilities for deviations, such as we had a deviation toward the top side, followed by deviation toward the low side. So we need to not only see the loss of the 88k level to expect continuations lower, but we need to see the price action show significant weakness and more or less sustain under that region. And that is something we're only going to be able to tell as it is happening to see the continuation lower. Now, in terms of actionable information, what does the 62.09 mean for you now? Well, this is what I will be doing. I don't think this is enough information, and this isn't something I'm going to be taking, full-heartedly aping into max leverage shorts right now just because the RSI is broken down. We are still within a structural formation, and as per the way I trade, I look for 3 things: strength, structure, and trend. Strength, negative momentum, RSI breakdown. Trend is neutral, is horizontal, and structure is a horizontal consolidation, neutral as well. So we've only got 1 out of the 3 things that would really confirm we are going to see lower continuations. So that is something we have to apply to our risk management, of course, and decide if that is enough to really make these decisions. So me, it is not enough. I'm personally waiting to see how the price will develop more, and there is always a chance we're going to see a rally toward the upside and invalidate the 62.09 breakdown. But nevertheless, it is a very significant point which we do need to draw attention to, as it has been proven to be as per nearly 10 plus years, 11 years of historical price action. Let's move over to the short-term price action. What do the buyers need to do to push the price up? So let's talk about the good and the bad right now. The good, let's take a look at the good. Let's just move out to the let's move out to the daily chart very quickly over here on the daily chart. We can see momentum has been dropping pretty steadily since we created these highs, bearish divergence over here, and we've got our local high over here. So we've been seeing negative momentum basically the entirety of this structure. For us to see continuations, we do want to see that momentum flip positive. Okay, so that's number 1. We want to see momentum flip positive for us to be confident in continuations higher. Let's now move to a smaller time frame. Let's go down to the 4-hourly chart. If we take that RSI trend line, apply it to the respective tops of the prior peaks, we have got this downtrend on the RSI, which matches the current downtrend of the price action. This downtrend over here matches the downtrend on the RSI. So we've got a clear and confirmed downtrend. We would want to see this RSI break toward the upside, which would increase the probability for a bottom to be created here and a continuation to retest the trend line. As we're going to see, we are testing that RSI right now. We have not broken through. So the buyers are clearly stepping in. There is very evidently demand at these levels, but they are not quite there yet to fully reverse the price upwards. I would very much like to see that RSI break through to be confident that we are going to see continuations upwards and this short-term volatility will sustain toward the upside. However, if we fail to do that, if we fail to see that continuation, there is a chance we reject from our current level of support and move back down into 92,000. So let's go down to an even smaller time frame now, to a 1 hour chart. As we can see, guys, here on the 1 hour, there's been a whole lot of chop, and you know, this is some absolutely horrendous price action. It truly is horrendous. The volatility, the chop, the indecision over the course of, let's take a look, the last 4 days. Look at these candles. Some of the ugliest price action we have seen for Bitcoin since, I don't even know how long. If we zoom back over here, I think we saw something akin to this all the way back. I think it was over here, maybe around 2023, August period. We saw some crazy sideways volatility for multiple days. The candles just printed back-to-back doji candles. But taking a look at the short-term price action here, guys, we can see we really need to start establishing some higher highs, right? What we're seeing here, we've got our lows, our highs over here, we've got our highs, we're potentially creating a new high on this resistance, we are establishing these lows. We need to start establishing and breaking through these prior higher highs. Of course, if we break this prior higher high, that RSI will break out and we will continue. So keep it nice and simple. We are not bullish on Bitcoin in the short term yet, okay? We are not yet. We are waiting for some evidence on the short term that this consolidation and chop has been absorbed and we are going to see continuations. This strong candle is not an indication of that. It is just simply consolidate. It is simply just chop. It is just volatility. We need to see these prior equal highs broken. We break through as resistance. We move into the 200. We flip the 200. We have the 4 hour RSI cross and we move back into 100K. Something like this is what is going to be needed for us to be confident that buyers are back in. Until that happens, the potential for continuous chop and slow decline is on the cards for Bitcoin. So do not be rash, be patient. And I've been saying this for a long time now. This month, and as the last 2 months have been, has been a month of cautious, optimism. Cautious optimism. We should be optimistic for the future, but we should be cautious. We should be cautious and aware of the profound and significant impacts, breakdowns, and loss of those critical supports may have on the price action. And that is why I will remain in cash until I am confident to re-enter the market. As you know, I bought at 16.5K to 18,000. I sold initially my entire bag at 31,000. I rebought at around 25,000 and I held all the way up to 96,000, selling at 96,000, re-entering at 102,000, selling at 106,000, and I've been out since mid-December at 106,000, simply in cash, waiting and trading, okay? Perfect, amazing conditions to scalp trade if you're in and out, but I wouldn't be taking too many swing positions right now. That is what I'm doing. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys in tomorrow's video. We'll see you then. Bye.